these massive deployments on the border clearly shows that what is in the line for the Hamas terrorists from the Israel side. The Hamas is continuously firing the missiles into the territory of Israel, and what they are trying to do, that they are also trying to inflict maximum damage to the civilian areas. So this being one of the highways that connects the border to the rest of the country, here the security deployment has been done.
This image tells you that somewhere down the line the Russian troops have crossed the line of war. There is and watching the Friday edition of This Is Exclusive with me, Shavan Sen. Ladies and gentlemen, there was a lot of speculation that was doing the rounds whether at all there was an intelligence failure. How is it really possible that the much famed Iron Dome, which is supposed to repel all rocket attacks, essentially landed up in a situation where rockets were coming as close as to the Tel Aviv airport? Not just that, 1,500 Hamas terrorists managed to enter Israeli soil. Remember, there is also palpable anger among the Israelis for wiping out the Hamas. That's their demand. On this broadcast of This Is Exclusive, for the first time, former chief of Mossad is going to join us, telling us what really went wrong and what perhaps could be the way forward. All this and much more on this edition of This Is Exclusive. But up first, these are the headlines we're tracking at this hour. Israel Air Force pummels at least 750 Hamas targets in overnight strikes in Gaza Strip.
Hamas terrorists are hiding in Gaza City, inside tunnels, underneath houses and inside buildings populated with innocent Gazan civilians.
Death toll in Israel due to Hamas strikes has now reached 1,327 Americans among dead. Israel asks civilians in Gaza to move to safer locations as fight against terrorism continues. 212 Indians brought back from war-torn Israel in first phase of Operation Ajay. Pro-Palestine protest in Hyderabad and Delhi, slogans raised against Israel.
United Nations में International Convention on Combating Terrorism कॉन्सेंसस का इंतजार कर रहा है। दुनिया के इसी रवैये का फायदा मानवता के दुश्मन उठा रहे हैं।
Prime Minister Modi urges for global consensus on fight against terror to strengthen counter-terror measures. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been 7 days since Hamas terrorists launched the deadliest offensive against Israel, killing more than 1,200 Israelis and taking an estimated 150 people hostage. The assault signals a new bloody chapter in a decade-long battle about territory and sovereignty. In a larger context, it was since years the Hamas terrorist has vowed to annihilate the state of Israel and also claimed responsibility for numerous deadly attacks. Now, the Israeli Defense Forces have mounted a strong response, triggering a war between Israel and Hamas, which controls the besieged Gaza Strip. Now, on this edition, this is exclusive, we are joined by Brigadier General Amnon Sofrin, who happens to be the former Mossad chief. He served in the IDF for more than 30 years, most of them being intelligence corps. On 2000, he was appointed by the Chief of General Staff to establish the Combat Intelligence Corps within the Ground Forces Command. General Sofrin, thank you very much for joining us on this broadcast. In fact, there are a lot of questions to ask days after this heinous crime that was committed, a terrorist act that has been committed by the Hamas. From your vast experience, I want to begin by asking you, were you really surprised on Saturday 6:30 in the morning when rockets were being fired? Most of the Israelis that I spoke to, they said that perhaps in the beginning it appeared like any other day in Israel where Hamas would continue firing their rockets. But this time, the surprising element was certainly the infiltration aspect. As the former Mossad chief, were you really surprised at the scale of this terrorist act?
Thank you very much for joining me, for joining you and hosting me. First of all, let me just correct. I'm not the former head of the Mossad. I'm former head of intelligence division or directorate of the Mossad, which is different. First of all, I was surprised not by the rocket launching, right, because it happens very much in Israel and very often. And it's not the first time and not the last time, of course. I hope that this will be the last time. But I was surprised by the attack carried out by Hamas, a brutal attack. People came only for one purpose, to murder Israelis and Jews on Israel's land and to demolish many of the kibbutzim surrounding Gaza and neighboring Gaza, showing full brutality, just like ISIS, killing women, children, babies, old men, old women, and kidnapping more than 150, maybe 200 people into Gaza, which is a terrible attack.
General Sofrin, what I want to also then ask you, while you say that you were really not surprised because given the fact that this is exactly what they were aiming for, let me now get into the specifics of it. Few days have now passed. I believe many in Israel would have been able to perhaps ponder upon what really went wrong. The much famed Iron Dome and the very fact that from the very organization that you come from, within the spy intelligence, it is considered to be one of the most formidable spy agencies. Did Israel actually go wrong in terms of the intelligence inputs or gathering the intelligence input? Did they really see this coming?
I don't think the problem is gathering information. I can point out three main points. When you deal with someone who is planning a surprise attack on Israel and plans it for a long time and make the preparations accordingly over a long time and hiding it under some other activities and giving us the impression that they don't want to go into war with Israel, and in the end, they carry out this surprising attack, we failed with something that we called in 1973 the concept, meaning we believed that Hamas doesn't really want to go to war in Israel, that Hamas is satisfied with the current situation where he gets money from Qatar, where people go into Israel to work and earn money, and the economic situation is getting better and so on. And we believe that Hamas doesn't really want to go into a protected war with Israel. And in the end, we were wrong, first of all, by understanding what Hamas really believes in and what Hamas really plans on. And in the end, we understand now, looking backwards, that first of all, it was planned or pre-planned for over a year. And with a very small group of people that really knew and planned how to attack Israel, everything was under a very, very great classification. A few people only knew what is going on, and they planned it very carefully. They carried out preparations under cover of trainings and so on. They got us used to their being training or being trained, and we didn't pay attention that they're planning that the real aim was to get into Israel and to attack us brutally as they did. And by that we failed. We failed to understand the intentions. We failed to understand the real aim of their concept. And that was the real issue. The second issue, we have another layer, which is a tactical one, which is deployed all along the border and give us the ability to look into Gaza up to the range of about 20 to 50 kilometers, 15, not 50. And they understood and they were aware of this system, and they, first of all, neutralized all the system by using drones that drew out grenades and bombs on our surveillance elements, paralyzing all this gathering system, and actually blinded the whole territory that held against Gaza Strip.
General Sofrin, with regards to the stockpile that Hamas had, with the number of rockets that were essentially fired, and we are now given to understand that the civilian infrastructure was also largely used by the Hamas. The same very infrastructure that has been sponsored by the West was largely used by the Hamas to carry out the attacks. But looking at the manner in which this was planned, do you believe that this time it was not just Hamas? There is a country, perhaps under the wraps at this point in time, behind this entire planning and an attack that is being carried out against Israel. So the question that I'm asking, it almost appears that the Hamas attacked Israel just like any other professional army of any other country and not just as a terrorist group. Do you believe that Hamas was being supported, is being supported by countries like Iran and several others?
First of all, Iran is supporting Hamas and assisting Hamas for many years. It's not a surprise. It's something that we are aware of, and we know exactly what they are doing. They're giving or delivering it to Hamas weapon systems, knowledge, trainings and systems, and teaching them how to behave or how to attack Israel. The second issue is Hamas didn't need Iran to decide for it how to attack or when to attack. It's not that Iran pulled the trigger and Hamas just launched the attack. Hamas decided upon itself. We don't have really any evidence supporting the fact that Iran was beyond the decision to attack Israel at this timing. But nevertheless, as the spokesman of the National Security Council of the US said, Iran is supporting Hamas for decades, delivering to it weapon systems, trainings, methodology, and so on. And by that, Iran is really engaged in what happens in Gaza.
General Sofrin, is Israel now staring at a two-front war? The reason why I ask you is the volatile northern border of Israel with Lebanon and Hezbollah becoming very active, while there isn't credible evidence to suggest that they are also up to something. Do you believe that in the days to come, things could be very different and Israel could be staring at a two-front war?
Let me define it as follows. Iran is trying to broker for about 2 years at least what we call a multi-dimensional attack on Israel, meaning to be engaged from Hamas, from the southern part of Israel, and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad in Gaza Strip as well, Hezbollah from the northern front, pro-Iranian militias in Syria, and elements from the Palestinians in Judea and Samaria. Now, for Hezbollah in the last few days is trying to engage Israel, but on kind of a low profile. They don't go into a wide escalation so far. And I believe, even though they declare that if we are going to escalate the fighting in Gaza, they are going to react also on the northern front, the fact that the Americans are now sending to this area its carriers, 2 of them, accompanied, of course, with other ships as well, battleships, I mean. I think this is deterring, and they brought and they sent a very clear message to Iran and to Hezbollah not to take advantage of the situation and to attack Israel, but taking into consideration that in Lebanon, there are Palestinian organizations inspired by Hamas and by the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. Hezbollah can settle down by the fact that they can give way to Palestinian groups to get into Israel and to engage Israel, just like one of the squads tried to get into Israel 2 days ago and was tackled by the IDF. 2 of them were killed, and we lost 3 of our soldiers. So Hamas will not fully be engaged on the northern front, in my opinion, but they will give way to the Palestinians to get into Israel and to engage Israel from that front as well.
One final question that I want to take with you, General Sofrin, is with regards to what's the future like. There is a growing chorus amongst the locals. They say that this time, wipe off Hamas. Your Prime Minister has already indicated that while Hamas may have begun the war, we will end it. How is it going to be different? You've been fighting this war for a very, very long time. Do you believe that the only way out is a ground offensive, a ground invasion, even though the West may not be very comfortable with this entire idea of Israeli troops entering Gaza Strip and perhaps wiping off Hamas from the face of earth?
If the aim is to wipe out Hamas and actually to destroy its fighting capabilities, the only way to do it is by ground forces, by maneuvering, which we call boots on the ground, and not by air attacks, and not by launching artillery shells into Gaza or tanks or everywhere, everything else, but to get directly with ground forces into Gaza, to get to the leadership, to get them to chase them, and to destroy all the Hamas capabilities of fighting in order to get the situation or to change the equation that was until now for many years.
Well, thank you very much, General Sofrin, for joining us on this broadcast and putting this into perspective. Hoping to come back to you in the days to come, because there is a lot of speculation that is now doing the round that this is just the beginning, a tip of the iceberg. In the days to come, there would be a larger effort, a larger coordination that is going to be done with the Israeli troops. And perhaps one can, as you've also pointed out, one cannot really rule out the possibility of a ground offensive. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure having you on Republic TV.
Thank you very much.
Well, even as Israel continued to grapple with the emerging enormity of the large-scale massacres, the Air Force planes bombarded wide swaths of the Gaza Strip. Now, the Israeli military has given 24 hours ultimatum. They say they will retaliate, and for the same, the tanks and artillery are being moved towards Gaza City. Republic TV is on the ground, getting you minute-by-minute update. In fact, this exclusive report is from an operational base which is just close to the Gaza border. Take a look at this exclusive report filed by my colleague Alisha Nair and Gursimran Singh.
There are around 2.2 million people which has to be evacuated. Not only this, many of the people have been evacuated, but now there is a final warning that has to be given to the people, asking them to leave the city because it has Israel retaliation for the Hamas assault which happened on Saturday, and also planned a potential ground attack. It's airstrike which will leave Gaza without power because the electricity, water, food supply have already been cut off. But now Gaza left with no power, water or medical care because here Israel has been plumbing Gaza with a ferocity that has not seen in the past conflicts. But now what we have been seeing, there are around 2 million people who stays in Gaza city, including the north and southern part of Gaza. So they have been asked to evacuate. All the people living in the northern part of Gaza has been asked to evacuate. We are just showing you the visuals. We also yesterday was reporting from the operational base of Israeli Defense Force, where there were more than 150 artillery tanks were present, and there were constant firing rockets to the Gaza side. But now this all artillery and the tanks which is moving towards the Gaza. We'll just keep showing you the visuals on your screen. As we see, Republic is the only channel who are with the Israeli Defense Force, and as we go further, we see there are more and more tanks coming. There's a clear message, and the power of Israel, what you see on your screen, the answer to the fight, the attack which was started by the Hamas terrorists, but now it is going to be ended by Israel. The message that has been given from the first day by the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who clearly says that the Hamas has started the attack, but here we are going to end this. But we even know that it's also United States who is stepping up its weapon shipment to Israel, where the Antony Blinken has clearly mentioned his joint Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at a military base in Tel Aviv here, but also it's Israel who called up 360,000 reservists and is building up a large force on the border with Gaza. Here are tanks and artillery and the rockets which is being moved. We'll just keep showing you the visuals where we almost have witnessed there were more than 200 to 300 artillery tanks that has been moved towards. We can even see the soldiers, the forces who are very much confident and ready to fight against Hamas terrorists. All the Israel's forces are going to fight against Hamas terrorists. But still they are waiting that the people, the civilian, should be taken to a safer place. They should be evacuated to the safer place, and then only it will be Israel who's going to make an attack. So we have been reporting from Yakini, which is just an exact location in Israel, which is just 500 meters, less than 500 meters towards the Gaza city, where all the tanks and the artilleries have been moved. They have been moving towards the Gaza because they will wait for the next. While we have been speaking, we are also hearing the rockets fire that has also been continuing from the Israel side now, the artillery that has been fired by the Israel now, because they want to, this time they want to finish the war. They are going to finish the Hamas terrorist, is what the Israel has been speaking from the first day. So these are the power of Israel, what we have been witnessing at this point of time on your screen, where the people, where the forces, Israeli Defense Forces is moving towards the Gaza city.
Well, that was Alisha Nair getting us that ground report from an operational base of the IDF. Now, the question here is that whether, if at all there is a ground offensive and Israeli troops enter Gaza, will that really be acceptable to the Western world? On the other side, we'll be speaking to the Israeli Foreign Ministry to really understand what exactly would the strategy be. Is the West steadfastly supporting Israel, as Secretary of State Antony Blinken was pointing out, and if will they be supporting them if at all there is a ground offensive.
QS and THE, the world's foremost university rankings organizations, have ranked Amity amongst the top 3% universities globally, making it among the very few Indian universities to be included in both rankings. Yet another top ranking for Amity University.
The massive destruction that has taken place here in the central Tel Aviv. All the residentials, they have been asked to vacate this area. No one is inside.
Republic is with the Israeli forces. Israeli forces was clearly mentioned. They are going to retaliate and they are completely ready now, as we can see.
Hamas target of significant value that has been neutralized over the last 24 hours.
There have been several. We've been able to neutralize several launching sites from where they've been launching rockets, weapons caches where they store rockets and other types of weapons.
This image tells you that somewhere down the line the Russian troops have crossed the line of war. And Russia needs to pay the price of the genocide that has been committed by them.
are just 1 kilometer away from the Gaza city. We have been hearing continuously an explosion, and importantly, what we see that the intelligence and all the officials are being present here. Intelligence information that have been gathered that there are some Hamas terrorists who tried to enter the city and they wanted to conquer the area. There are continuously explosion and the missiles that has been fired. Not only this, but there are artillery that has also been fired, but that has also been intercepted by Israeli forces.
US Secretary Antony Blinken has already landed in Tel Aviv, and he's having the talks with the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. Apart from this, these massive deployments on the border clearly shows that what is in the line for the Hamas terrorists from the Israel side. The Hamas is continuously firing the missiles into the territory of Israel, and what they are trying to do, that they are also trying to inflict maximum damage to the civilian areas. So this being one of the highways that connects the border to
Hello, Moto.
Motorola, India's best 5G smartphone brand.
Israel Air Force pummels at 750 Hamas targets in overnight strikes in Gaza Strip. Death toll in Israel due to Hamas strikes has now reached 1,327 Americans among the dead. Israel asks civilians in Gaza to move to safer locations as fight against terrorism continues. 212 Indians brought back from war-torn Israel in first phase of Operation Ajay. Pro-Palestine protests in Hyderabad and Delhi, slogans raised against Israel. Six days after Hamas launched an unprecedented attack on Israel, Israel's military has now ordered hundreds of thousands of civilians living in Gaza City to evacuate ahead of a feared retaliatory offensive. Now, the directive came on the heels of what the United Nations said was a warning they received from Israel to evacuate 1.1 million people living in northern Gaza within 24 hours. Now, as Israel readies for the big counter strike. On this special broadcast, I'm also joined by the deputy spokesperson of the Israeli Foreign Affairs Ministry, Yoel Leon, who's joining us on this broadcast. He would be joining us in a short while from now to get us more on what exactly is Israel planning, what exactly would be the repercussion if at all there is a planning of a ground offensive. Yoel Leon, thank you very much for joining us on this broadcast on Republic TV. Let me straight away begin by asking you, we do know that on a day like this, when several foreign dignitaries are now visiting Israel, and of course with the backing that you've actually received from most of the countries, Israel would certainly find themselves in a much more confident position. In the days to come, are we really looking at the possibility of a ground offensive, given the fact that you've put out a warning to everyone living in Gaza that they need to leave? Does this mean that in the days to come, a ground offensive cannot be ruled out?
Look, I think that before we begin to answer this question, we have to get back a week ago. A week ago, we were attacked by a gang of barbarians who entered the sovereign territory of Israel, slaughtered women, children in their beds, took hostages with them to Gaza, did everything which is against any kind of humanity, showed that they do not value any life and do not value anything that the civilized world is valuing. They are, as Secretary of Defense Austin just said a couple of minutes ago in Israel, they are even worse than ISIS because he was fighting ISIS. He saw the horrific things that ISIS was doing, but Hamas, by burning babies, beheading babies, did even more than ISIS ever have done. So we have to understand the framework where Israel is now dealing. Second, it's not a retaliation. We do not retaliate. We are going after Hamas. Hamas is a terror organization sponsored by Iran. Iran is behind all this, and Hamas is the one that we are targeting. We are targeting the terror organization Hamas. That's the one that we are going after, and nothing to do with retaliation. We only want to have a quiet border, a quiet place where our people can live a normal life and not have barbarians coming and invading ourselves. About the toll of death in Israel, I made a calculation, plus minus, that 1,300 deaths in Israel is the equivalent of 20,000 deaths in India. Now, try to imagine in one day, 20,000 people killed by a terror organization for nothing, only for being what they are. Because they killed the Israelis only for being Israelis. No other reason was there. So we are attacking Hamas. We are hardly attacking Hamas. We are attacking the infrastructure of Hamas. We are attacking the political level of Hamas. We are attacking everywhere where Hamas is. Hamas, as cowards, are hiding behind civilians. So we ask the civilians to leave the place, because we don't want to hurt people who are not involved. In our eyes, the ones who will stay there are involved.
Mr. Leon, one must acknowledge the fact that this time that there is growing anger amongst the Israelis, and not just that, even people outside Israel, even people here in India are actually shocked that you have the Hamas, a terrorist organization, carrying out this kind of a massacre. The question is, how exactly will Israel retaliate? How is it going to be different than in the past? You've had this war with them for a very long time. How is it going to be different this time?
You are right. It's an ongoing conflict. But this time, we are going after everything that Hamas has. We are going after any operative of Hamas. We are going after any leader of Hamas. And as our Minister of Defense said, there will be no Hamas more after this war. It is not only for Israel that we are doing it. We are doing it for the civilized world. We are doing it for all the people believing in freedom, believing in the values of life. That the value of life is the holy thing that a human being can have. So we look at the picture. We look who is behind Hamas. Behind Hamas, you have Iran. Iran is the one financing Hamas, is the one supporting Hamas, the one arming Hamas. Iran is also in Lebanon with Hezbollah. Iran is in Syria with the Revolutionary Guards of Iran. Iran is everywhere, and everywhere where Iran is, there is chaos and destruction. So what we are saying, we will deal with Hamas now. We will deal to the end with Hamas. That's what we want to do. And that's the difference with the other times.
Mr. Leon, I spoke to the former intelligence Mossad chief just a short while back, and he said that from his experience, he says that this could not have been done without pre-planning. 6 days have passed. The world really wants to know now. How long was this planning being done by the Hamas? Was civilian infrastructure that was built by the Western world in Gaza, was that actually used for the attack? Could you tell us a little bit more? Because many would say that while this is a surprise attack, how would this been possible had it not been for the backing of some countries like Iran? 6 days have passed. Would you now be in a position to tell us what is it that you found so far? What is the kind of evidence that you are showing the world when it comes to the monstrosity of Hamas?
You know, we are showing the world, first of all, the trail of money, how Iran is financing the Hamas. We are showing the world the trail of the arms, how the arms are coming from Iran to Hamas. Sometimes we are catching them, and that's the way that we have to show it. We see the Iranian technologies. We see that the people were trained by Iran. And we know that an Iranian general was just in Lebanon the day of the attack. So we have collateral evidence right now. I'm pretty sure that we have all the evidence, but right now we are in a war. We're in a war that we have to win. Yes, we got punched. It's true. It's like a boxing match, you know. Sometimes the boxer is even the champion is getting punched and he's going down. So we went down, but we stood up, stronger even than before, united, totally united. All Israel is united. We have a unity government. Everyone came to the reserve. I don't know if you can imagine that we had 120% of response to the reserve. People are coming to bases, people who 10 years are not in the reserve anymore, and they are asking to be recruited because everyone wants to do something. We understand that this is the war. This is the war that we have to do in order to take out the roots of evil from this region.
Mr. Leon, do you believe that when it comes to the support that Hamas has been enjoying all this while, apart from Iran, do you believe that from the investigation that has been carried out so far, is there any other country that has been backing Hamas in terms of providing them with the logistical support? And also, more importantly, do you believe that there is some sort of a unity that is being built amongst the Muslim nations, the Islamic nations, against Hamas?
I mean, the first question, I don't know, so I will not comment on it. The second question, I think that people see that Hamas is ISIS. And as the Arab nations, the Muslim nations saw that ISIS is not the way of Islam, they see also that Hamas is not the way of Islam. And they understand that we are not talking here about any freedom fighter or something like that. We are talking here about monsters. We're talking here about inhuman people who are able to go and to kill babies in their beds. That's what we are talking about. We are talking a lot now about geopolitical things, but I think that we should also remember that we have at least 100 is confirmed, but maybe there are more. At least we have 100 Israeli hostages holding captive in Gaza. And we are talking here about 6-month-old babies. We are talking here about 85-year-old lady. We are talking here about 12-year-old that I know about. We are talking here about normal civilians not involved in anything, who were quietly sleeping in their homes. These barbarians came in, threatened to kill or and they did it also. They killed people, they put on fire, they beheaded people, they did whatever monstrous thing that you can think about. And that's what we're dealing with. And they are holding the people against any human law. I don't want to use the international law, etc., because a lot of people will say, yeah, international law. No, human values, the minimum human values. Why do you need to take a 6-month-old baby as a hostage?
Well, two aspects that I would like to touch upon right now, Mr. Leon, because there is a lot of focus. One is with regards to the hostages. Over the last few days, Republic TV has been at the forefront as a leading South Asian network, speaking to several of the survivors, those who have, who have absolutely no idea about their loved ones who have been kidnapped by the Hamas. The question that I want to ask you is with regards to the hostages that have been taken by the Hamas. Is there any clarity as far as the number of hostages taken And what is it that Israel is essentially doing at this point in time? Because we do believe that there is no communication line perhaps open with the Hamas. So what's the way forward for those family members who are hoping that there would be a solution with regards to the hostages?
The only thing that I can say, and I see the pictures that you are showing, and I don't know how to react, because I know what happened to the first girl who was on the first images, the one with the blood on her pants, and I think that everyone understands what happened to her. I think that it is something. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit shocked as usual when I see the pictures and when I see that they took these people. They took these people from a party, the festival. Sorry, a music festival. They were dancing at a music festival. These young people that you saw on the pictures, the one on the motorcycle, her boyfriend, etc. They took them from a music festival. Yes, and that is the what we see now. It's a German citizen. She was also raped and paraded into the streets of Gaza. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. It's the worst. It's the worst that can happen to somebody, to be taken by monsters who are not able to understand what's the value of life. We're not negotiating with monsters. We do not negotiate with monsters. We are asking, that's the music festival, we are asking for an immediate release of all the hostages, because there is no discussion. There is no way, there are no negotiations. There are no moral equivality to this. You come and you take civilians, you come and you take a non-involved people, kidnap them, abduct them. Come on. Who are you? Monsters. Yes, they are monsters.
Mr. Leon, what next? Many say that this is just the tip of the iceberg. Your Prime Minister also indicated that there is perhaps a second phase. You've been in talks with several of the Western nations. In fact, we are given to understand that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has also spoken to Prime Minister Modi. What is it that you're telling the world right now in terms of what next? Because that's where everyone perhaps would be focusing.
We are telling the world that we will continue the offensive against the terror organization Hamas or ISIS. They brought flags of ISIS with them. We are continuing the operation. We will continue the operation till Hamas will disappear from the Gaza Strip. If we have to do ground operation, there will be ground operation. If it will continue by air, it will continue by air. I don't know. I'm not a strategist. I don't know how we are doing it and how we should do it. But what I know is that we are going to eradicate this evil.
Mr. Leon, one final question that I want to take with you. United States of America has already pledged their support to Israel. Even some sort of a military assistance is what we were picking up. As far as India and Israel are concerned, both the nations have a fantastic relationship. Not just that, both the prime ministers enjoy a personal relationship. They've spoken to each other. What is it that Israel is seeking from India at this point in time?
I think we need to have the continuation of your support. I hope that your country understands what we are doing and why we are doing it, that we don't have a choice, that we are not targeting civilians, that we are going after the terrorists. That's what we are doing. And as long as possible, as the world is understanding it and letting us do the job, the world will be safer afterwards. So I wish from here to thank all our Indian friends who are supporting us, who are sending us really message of support. There is an Indian lady who is helping my mother, my elderly mother, and I see who are the good Indian people. And really, thank you for the support that you are giving us, and continue to support us also in the United Nations, everywhere where you can.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Leon. I would just like to make one more request to you as we leave you. We are hoping that you'll come back on our network as one of the leading South Asian networks. It is our job perhaps to expose the monstrosity of Hamas. We've been speaking to several survivors, hoping that our communication is open with you, and in the days to come, the Foreign Ministry of Israel would be cooperating more with Republic TV.
Thank you, and we will continue to cooperate with you, no problem. Just my name is Joel, Joel, Lion, Lion, for the next time.
I apologize. We'll make that correction. Thank you very much. Well, that was the deputy spokesperson of the Israel Foreign Ministry speaking to Republic TV, a clear indication of what is yet to come. They say that a ground offensive cannot be ruled out, and of course there is no question of any sort of negotiation with the terrorists. Death toll in Israel due to Hamas strikes has now reached 1,327 Americans among the dead. Israel asks civilians in Gaza to move to safer locations as fight against terrorism continues.
We have been reporting